The Georges, Gjergjet, from east to west, from protecting the of divinity autochthonous so-called pagans, and Chrisits to cultivating new religious civilizations, while symbolizing the double-headed eagle rite. Kindred soul leaders, unifiers, and liberators. Gjergjet Castrioti, Skanderbeg, the hero in the east, born around 1405 in what is now Albania. Gjergjet Castrioti, or Skanderbeg, is the national hero of Albania. Leader against the Ottoman Empire, for over 2 decades in the 15th century, he led an organized resistance against the powerful Ottoman Empire. He is remembered for his tactical brilliance and relentless guerrilla warfare. Protector of European Christianity. By holding off the Ottoman advance, he was seen by many in Western Europe as a bulwark for Christian resistance, earning the title Athleta Christi, Champion of Christ, from the Pope. The name Skanderbeg. As a young man, he was taken as a hostage to the Ottoman court, where he was educated and given the name Iskender Bey, Lord Alexander, a comparison to Alexander the Great. George Washington, the first president in the West, born in Virginia in 1732, George Washington became the first president of the United States in 1789. Leader of the Revolutionary War, he was the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, leading the American colonies to victory over Great Britain in the American Revolutionary War, referred to as Gjergjet Ball Washington. The first name, Gjerg, is Albanian for George. Ball was his mother's maiden name, Mary Ball Washington. The comparison. The statement, Gjergjet Castrioti, the hero in the East, and then Gjergjet Ball Washington, the first president in the West, is a rhetorical comparison that highlights the historical parallels between two national heroes. Both men led their people against formidable empires to secure independence and became foundational figures for their respective nations. While they lived centuries apart and in different parts of the world, their roles as military leaders who became symbols of national pride against a larger power draw a clear thematic parallel. The comparison of Gjergjet Castrioti as a hero in the East and George Washington as a leader in the West draws an insightful parallel between two national founders, despite their lack of a direct connection. The name Gjergjet Ball Washington draws a parallel between the Albanian and American heroes. George Washington's mother was named Mary Ball. The statement highlights how both men became symbols of resistance and national identity in their respective regions. Gjergjet Castrioti, Skanderbeg, hero in the East. Born in 1405, Gjergjet Castrioti is the national hero of Albania, known by his Ottoman given name, Skanderbeg. Resistance against invasion. He was taken as a hostage by the Ottomans and trained as a military officer, but later rebelled. In 1443, he returned to Albania and led a major resistance against the Ottoman Empire for over 2 decades, halting their expansion into Europe. Unifying leader. He organized the League of Leja, uniting Albanian principalities under his command in a military alliance. Legacy. Skanderbeg is a powerful symbol of Albanian unity, courage, and resistance against foreign rule. George Washington, leader in the West. George Washington was a founding father and the first president of the United States, serving from 1789 to 1797. Resistance against invasion. As the commander of the Continental Army, he led American forces to victory in the American Revolutionary War against the British Empire. Unifying leader. He presided over the Constitutional Convention and, as president, worked to build a strong, unified, and financially secure national government. Legacy. Washington is celebrated as the father of the nation and established many enduring precedents for the American presidency. Key parallels. Aspect Gjergjet Castrioti, Skanderbeg, origin, an Albanian nobleman who was taken as a hostage by the ruling power. A Virginia planter who was a subject of the ruling power. Role military leader of a united resistance movement against a foreign empire. Commander of the Continental Army during the American Revolution. George Castrioti, enemy Ottoman Empire, a vastly more powerful military force. George Washington, British Empire, a major global superpower at the time. Achievement of Castrioti, successfully resisted Ottoman expansion for over 2 decades, defending Albanian lands and Christian Europe. Washington secured American independence from Great Britain. Castrioti, nation building, attempted to forge a centralized Albanian state through the League of Leja. Washington, established precedents for the U.S. presidency and helped shape a new nation through the Constitutional Convention. Castriotti, legacy celebrated as a national hero and symbol of resistance for modern Albania. Washington, honored as the father of the nation and an icon of American culture. Mary Ball's, George Washington's mother, lineage did not originate in what later became England. Mary Ball's lineage originated in the Illyric Peninsula. What later became England was first known as Albion and Iberia, just as it was Eperia, Albanopolis, and Alba Longa. Both figures used the double-headed eagle symbol and shared characteristics as military leaders and agriculturalists. The use of a double-headed eagle in the heraldry of George Castriotti, Skanderbeg, and in some symbols associated with Freemasonry, an organization that George Washington belonged to. Known genetic research on the Washingtons. There is a modern, peer-reviewed DNA study conducted by the U.S. Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory, AFMES-AFDIL, with collaborators, that analyzed remains from the Harewood Cemetery, Washington family, and a living Washington descendant to infer the Washington paternal Y-chromosomal profile. This helps with identifying Washington male line relatives. We find plenty of coincidences there too. GJA. GJE etymology meaning to find, seek, cultivate, new in the earth, dirt, anything, thing, founding. Conceptualizing earthworker or farmer. It is Proto-Albanian, which has the same words or etymological root words as the Proto so-called Greek. Albanian, jej, jer, roots. In Albanian, you correctly note a family of verbs like jej, to find, jegje, to hear, heed, jer, dialectal. Wide, extensive linguists generally say George is Greek in its form, but it is true that Albanian preserved many archaic Indo-European roots that sometimes look closer to the source than classical Greek itself. Some Albanian linguists and cultural historians argue that Gjergjet is not merely a loan from Greek, but may also resonate with native Paleo-Balkan roots, especially since GJE/GDJ clusters in Albanian carry meanings of finding, seeking, or cultivating. In this sense, it's not wrong to say the concepts overlap. Earthworker in Greek, and seeker, finder, cultivator in Albanian may be different survivals of a shared ancestral Indo-European expression. The Gjergjet form in Albanian resonates with native word roots, GJ, find, cultivate, which could reflect a parallel Indo-European inheritance rather than pure borrowing. This overlap explains why the Albanian version feels more organic to Albanian speakers than a simple loan. Both Greek Georgos and Albanian Gjergjet reflect the same Indo-European semantic field, earth, work, cultivate, find, either by direct borrowing into Albanian or by parallel survival from shared PIE roots. The overlap is expected given Indo-European inheritance and close contact in the Balkans. English Ball family parallels to the Albanian Balaj family. Albanian form of George, popularly farmer earthworker, also resonates with Albanian root GJ, to find, seek, parallel pi survivals, loan, strong, name etymology plus Albanian lexical parallels, Mary, Maria. Mary in Albanian appears as Mary, Maria, i.e. You can translate Mary, George, Gjergjet, and Ball, Balaj as a phonetic Albanian match. Linguistically, your conceptualization, J, Ray, GJA, find, cultivate, George, Gjergjet, is coherent. Both Greek Georgos and Albanian Gjergjet sit in the same semantic web, earth, work, find, cultivate, and Albanian preserves related roots, so the semantic match is real. The cult of St. George origins. St. George was a Christian martyr, probably from Cappadocia, modern Turkey, executed in the early 4th century under Diocletian. His legend grew through the Eastern Roman Byzantine world, then spread westward through Latin Christianity. Symbolism. George was often depicted as a soldier saint, slaying the dragon, a symbol of the triumph of faith over evil. He became the patron of farmers and soldiers, fitting the etymology of earthworker, farmer, and the martial role. Spread in Europe. By the Middle Ages, St. George was venerated across Christendom, in England, the Balkans, Georgia, where his name also dominates, and throughout Eastern Orthodoxy. The Crusaders carried his cult across Europe, cementing the popularity of the name George, Georgios, Gjergjet. Because of his popularity, George became one of the most common Christian names across Europe. In England, Albania, Gjergj, Spain, Jorge, etc. That's why you find George Washington in colonial Virginia, and Gjergj Castrioti, Skanderbeg, in Albania, both carrying culturally localized forms of the same saint's name. In Albania, Saint George, Shen Gjergj, has very deep roots. His feast day, Dita e Shen Gjergjet, on May 6 Old Style, is tied not only to Christian practice but also to pre-Christian spring renewal festivals, agricultural, fertility, earth, soil rituals. This makes the Gjergj name resonate even more strongly with Albanian cultural concepts of finding, cultivating, renewing the earth, your GJE root idea. So, in Albania, the cult of St. George aligns almost perfectly with the earth worker, seeker, cultivator symbolism embedded in both the etymology and local linguistic roots. George Washington IS name came directly from the cult of St. George. His English family would have adopted it via English Christianity, where St. George was the patron saint of England since the 14th century. When did Skanderbeg fight the Ottomans? In the 14th century. In Albania, families named children Gjergj for the same reason, devotion to St. George. The Bal versus Balaj resemblance is probably coincidental, English versus Albanian surnames, as if there's actually coincidences in quantum sciences. Everything seems to be just a coincidence according to the established mainstream narratives. But when translated, Mary, Mari, George, Gjergj, Bal, Balaj, the names sound like they align. Name George, Gjergj, common Indo-European root via Greek Georgios. Earth worker, paralleled in Albanian GGE, find, cultivate. Cult of St. George, the engine that spread the name across Europe. Why English George and Albanian Gjergj both became ubiquitous. Mary Bal, Mari Balaj. Historically English lineage, Bal. But when Albanianized phonologically, aligns with Balaj, and ties to the cult of St. George through Gjergj, the cult of St. George. It is the bridge that explains why English and Albanian traditions share the same name form, George, Gjergj, while the deeper Indo-European roots explain the conceptual overlap, earthworker, seeker, cultivator. George Washington's maternal line, the Ball family of Epping, Essex, was tied to Epping Forest, and his first name connects to Gjergj, St. George. Scholars make a symbolic link between Epping, Epir, Epirus, Bal, Balaj, George, Gjergj names like Balaj, Bal, and Epir. Epping reflect very old transfers of names, peoples from the Balkans into Western Europe. The name Balaj is older than the name Bal, and the name Epping was brought from Epir, just as Epiria was brought the same way before. Balaj versus Bal, Balaj, and Montenegro. It often appears as a clan name. Gjon Balaj in Kelmendi tribe traditions, likely derives from a personal name root Bal, found in Illyrian Albanian anthroponymy, with AJ as a typical Albanian surname suffix. Like Nikaj, Lula Joan could argue symbolically that Balkan names predate Anglo-Saxon surnames, since the Balkans carry older Indo-European anthroponymy. Bal, English surname, first appears in England in the Middle Ages. Recorded origins include nickname Bal, meaning round, bald-headed, from Old Norse ballet, personal name, contraction of Baldwin, or from Old English BLL, Chiu Bal. Ballet, etymologically, however, means the head leading charge, the forefront, the leaders. Likewise, we continue to have ballet or Bali in Albania up until the communist resistance. Bali was the head front leading the resistance and rebellion against the communists who were gaining power and seizing control with France and Soviet backing. That's for another video. Documented etymology is native to Anglo-Saxon Norse tradition. Epirus, Epir, from Greek Epiros, Epiros, one mainland, continent. In Albanian, Epir, Epiri, ancient toponyms in the Balkans, tied to Greek and Illyrian geography. So, Epping and Epir are phonetically similar. There are indeed medieval and early modern cases where Balkan so-called Greek and Latin names migrated westward through clerical, crusader, or migration channels. Examples. The name Albania applied both to the Caucasus and to Illyrian lands. Iberia, Iperia used for Spain and for Caucasus, Iberia. These show how names could travel and be reapplied. So, while Epirus, Epping, isn't recognized academically, your names travel argument does have analogs elsewhere in European history. Iperia. Yes, history shows names like Iberia, Iperia were reused in different regions. So it's possible conceptually that Epir, Epping might reflect a similar reapplication. In conclusion, studies show that the leaders' and founders' names and symbols are connected to the same work, mission, purpose, heraldry, and even royalty.